Welcome all. A couple of weeks ago, a couple of months or a month ago now at least, I put out a video regarding the SmallRig MPF adapter and my dissatisfaction with the output that it provided, i.e. I lost half an hour of recording time versus the Andauer one that I had previously. Now, since putting out my last video where I actually showed the voltage differences and so forth that the units were providing, I had some discussions with SmallRig. In fact, the email went to about 9 pages of toing and froing with various bits of information being tossed around. And the bottom line is that SmallRig maintain that they've designed this adapter so that the voltage cuts out at 6.52 volts in order to save the battery. Now, first off, that's really a bit of a non-issue, because all good quality batteries have over discharge circuitry built in. It's a required safety feature basically on a good quality batteries. If you buy really cheap batteries, you'll run the risk of them actually having a problem, which could result in accidents and things like that. So lithium-ion batteries must have that circuitry built in the first place. And so the batteries will take care of any over discharge issues, and the adapter shouldn't do that. But to highlight that and to sort of understand why that is also wrong in another factor, is that the cells in this IDX battery, for example, and most typical MPF9 batteries, which are 7.2 volts, or the 7.4 volt ones for that matter, have a nominal voltage of either 3.6 volts or 3.7 volts. But the discharge voltage on either one will be between 2.8 and 3 volts. Now, to get the 7.2 volts, for example, out of this, 2 of those cells are put in series, and that gives you that 7.2 volts total, and then there are 6 batteries in the 970 equivalent. So what that means is that the lowest voltage that the cells will sustain of 2.8 to 3 volts works out at 5.6 or 6 volts. So what SmallRig is doing already is depriving the user of between half a volt and 1 volt, and at the low end when it goes to the discharge side, which is unnecessary because the battery will take care of that. So that already contributes to the fact that you're losing the half hour of recording time, which for some people is very important, others not so important. The other note to take into account is that with the Battery University data, I'll put a link to Battery University there because it's a very good site for all sorts of battery information for those who are interested. The maximum charge voltage is 4.2 volts, and which means it's 8.4 for 2 cells, and that is exactly what voltage I'm getting out of the USB-C charger that I am using at the moment, and I still haven't heard back on the IDX charger. But the batteries are taking care of all of those over discharge and overcharge capabilities or issues. So the other issue that I raised with SmallRig, and after I did this they just went silent basically, is that the starting voltage, as I demonstrated in my last video, is about 11.6 volts, and the Andauer one is about 12.1 volts. So what you're getting there is significant voltage reduction, usable voltage reduction with the SmallRig MPF plate. And I suspect that they didn't want to acknowledge that after I'd already put a video out, because that could mean that they would have to issue returns and whatnot, or replacements for quite a large number of adapter plates. Had I gone quietly to them and raised the issue, they may well have sent me a replacement one and left it at that. But that's not my way of doing things. If I notice that there are issues with products and so forth that I use, then what I want to do is actually highlight that to others so that you don't fall into the same trap. Now, for some, that as I said, the 30-minute reduction may not be a problem at all. The SmallRig plate is very well designed mechanically. Unfortunately, the circuitry doesn't sort of meet what I expect out of it, and so that's something that I just wanted to highlight to people, so that if you buy it, it's still potentially worthwhile. If the full 3 hours that I would get now with the Andauer plate is not such a issue for you, then this is actually a very good adapter to use. But if you want to get the maximum performance out of it, then that's the one to shy away from at the moment. Or if you want to buy it, and I suspect that they're upgrading their products, because This is no longer available on the Small Rig Australia site. They've put a not available, so I suspect there may have been a quiet recall of the units, and they are now perhaps making new ones. I did hear somewhere that someone is getting a full 3 hours out of it, so they have a late model, a newer one. I may have received an older unit, who knows. But I thought I'd put it out there so that I can bring closure to this issue, and that anyone who comes across this video is fully aware of what has gone on, and you can make your own decisions knowing both the positives and the negatives of the product, and you can then make a purchasing decision based on that. I like to keep things always open and keep people informed, and that's why I put this out publicly rather than going quietly to Small Rig in the first instance. And so hopefully that's going to be of some help to people who are looking for a battery adapter for not just the Blackmagic cameras, but for any camera that takes external input from MPF batteries and so forth. So on that note, I'll call it cheers.